Hello. The Canu Heledd, the Songs of Heledd, are a cycle of Welsh poems set in the 7th century and written down from oral tradition at least 2 centuries later that provide insight into the Anglo-Saxon push across Britain and contain a reference to an Arthur. They're exceptional for the period in that the narrator, Heledd, is a woman. One of the poems deals with events that took place in the mid-650s and is a lament for a prince of Powys called Cynddylan, Heled's brother. We only have literary sources for Heledd and Cynddylan. There are no historical records for either figure. The poem is addressed to the King of Dogveiling, whose territory stretched from North Wales into what is now Shropshire. It is clearly a performance piece, rhythmic with repeated refrains, grandeur in battle, and with slight variations. I shall lament until I lie in my oaken coffin for the slaying of Cynddylan in his grandeur. The poem presents a picture of turmoil. The Celtic tribes are at war with each other. The King of Dogveiling is a terror and an oppressor of the Cynddylan, the ruling dynasty of Powys. Cynddylan raids the Dales of the Taff, and the mini-kingdoms of the Anglo-Saxon heptarchy are variously engaged in a struggle for supremacy. Cynddylan is an ally of Penda, king of Anglo-Saxon Mercia, against Northumbria, an alliance most probably founded on an agreed territorial boundary between their respective territories. The defeat and death of Penda at the Battle of Winwade in 655 ended the alliance. Cynddylan may have died at the same battle, or perhaps the following year, when the Northumbrian king Oswy drove the British back. A battle is recorded at Lichfield in Staffordshire, introduced by the line, I used to have brothers. It was better when they were the young whelps of great Arthur, the mighty fortress. Oswy's forces destroyed the Lys, the court of Cynddylan at Pengwern. There are several places called Pengwern, and the precise location is hard to pinpoint. In one of the poems, Heledd, presumably a witness to the destruction of Pengwern, identifies Baschurch, a Glusu Bassa in Shropshire, as the place where Cynddylan was buried. Baschurch is his resting place tonight, his final abode. The poem goes on to tell us, Baschurch is destroyed tonight. Its warriors are no more. It is reddened, too great is my grief. Just outside the modern village of Baschurch, there is an earthwork described as a hill fort known as the Birth, which has been suggested as the site of Pengwern and as the ancestral burial place of local early medieval chieftains. With Cynddylan identified as a descendant of Arthur in another poem, the Song of Heledd the Old, the Birth has been proposed as a possible location for the grave of an historical Arthur. Heledd, to whom the song is attributed, was a prince and poet of the kingdom of Reged. The Birth is a scheduled monument on privately owned land. There is no public access. If it was a hill fort, it occupies an unusual site, on a rise but hardly a hill. Professor Henry Chapman has called it a marsh fort. In the medieval period, there appears to have been a pair of islands, connected by a narrow strip of land in the middle of a lake, of which Birth Pool is a remnant, originally some half a mile across. This would make it a special place in post-Roman Britain, with echoes of the lake and of the Isle of Avalon that appear in Arthurian legend. There are other significant Welsh language manuscripts that refer to Arthur, including the late 14th century Red Book of Hergest, which preserves early material, and in the Mabinogion, an important collection of stories translated in the 19th century by Charlotte Guest, set mainly on the west coast of Wales. The Arthur of these stories is markedly different from the romanticised 12th century versions. Arthur is described as a battle leader, as he is in the works attributed to Nennius that we looked at in part 5. 3 poems in the Book of Taliesin, a 6th century bard, mention Arthur, but the storytelling is elusive, poetic and ambiguous, the time frames fluid. One common feature in the Celtic sources and in the literature it influences, is the obligation insisted upon by law and custom of the right to hospitality. Wherever the principals, the knights or warriors travel, they have only to knock on a hall or castle door for food and lodging to be provided. Taliesin says of Urien, a 6th century king of Reged, courtesy surrounds him. Next time, Geoffrey of Monmouth and his influential History of the Kings of Britain, a work that arguably more than any other is responsible for the King Arthur of popular imagination. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe buttons and click on the notification bell to be informed when the next video is available, or you can subscribe by clicking on the rose window over my shoulder.